secure and secured all night.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Thursday's Q&A edition of the Rangers Journal podcast tonight. I have a full house, so I'll go around the house first. So, Ross, how you doing?
Very well. How's yourself?
I can't complain, mate. I can't complain. It's near Friday. It's near the weekend. Deano, how's things, Deano?
All good, mate. Thank you. Good to be on.
Glad to have you. And returning, it's Kevin. Kevin, how's things?
Good, mate. Good to be back. Been away for a few months, so excited to be back involved in the old Q&As on a Thursday.
That's it. Can't keep you away, especially when Rangers are doing all right. So it's Q&A. So just relying really on the chat for questions and stuff. I have a few things here that I'll probably throw at the guys. But say get involved, get the questions coming in. And we'll go for them. We'll try and get the guys' thoughts on what your questions are, obviously, and then we'll go through a few of the ones I sort of put together as well, just to sort of see how the season's going so far and if it's met expectations. Blah blah blah. Ross, we'll go straight into it. Then we'll go with what I've prepared here to start. We're coming into our 5th competitive game on Saturday. In terms of the squad, is this where you thought the squad would be at this stage of the season? Are you happy with it, or do you think there's plenty of change needing made, or are you sort of going through the motions?
I think I'm probably pleasantly surprised that we've done as much business incomings as we have. Yeah. Although, to be fair, I think we could probably all expect a little bit more in terms of outgoings. But you can't say that Russell Martin hasn't been backed so far by the new owners. But I think, a lot of us said towards the end of the season that you could easily make an argument that you could watch 25 guys walk out the front door and bring in 25 players. You could easily make an argument for it. So I think the fact that we've brought in, 9 so far, we have been rumoured that, there's maybe another 1 or 2 on the horizon. That could be a whole new starting 11, and we're only kind of, 3 or 4 weeks into the season. So there is still plenty of time, and I'm probably expecting more change. But I'm actually surprised that we've done as much business in, considering how stagnant we've been in terms of outgoings. We're probably trying to shift a lot of big wages off the books.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's still plenty to be shifted off the books. Kevin, what's your thoughts then in terms of where we're at this point in the season? We're 5 games in. As a squad, are you happy with the squad the way it is, or are you looking for more movement?
To be fair, probably similar to what Ross is saying. I'm happy with the incomings. I think we're in a pretty solid place. I think Barry, I've seen someone posting that they think we need 5. I don't think it's maybe as much as 5 as things stands. I think definitely a left centre back and a left back, and I'd be pretty comfortable. Obviously, we need to see who's going to leave, because I think that will really depend in terms of what incomings we'll need. Because if we see Eggman leave or Dessers leave, then we'll need to obviously have replacements in for them. Same way, potential if there's an opportunity for Raskin, who maybe gets moved on for a significant fee, would maybe need another centre mid in. But I think as it stands, the squad is bloated right now, and I agree with what Ross is saying. I think I definitely expected a bit more outgoings at this point. There's a lot of people that, some on the fringes and some people that are just in Siberia altogether. You've got Ridvan, you've got like Ben Davies, etc. These guys need to be moved on as soon as possible, because the squad is bloated, and I'd imagine it must be so difficult when you're trying to organise training sessions and everything else. So, but happy so far with the incomings.
Dino, then, just as the guys are saying, they're happy for incomes as well as outgoings. Is there any sort of priority positions you want to target? Even though, granted, like as we've seen with that, I think it was somebody uploaded the full squad on Twitter there. I think it was last week, and you've seen how big the squad really is. It is seriously bloated, and I think Mitch said we're going to need two team buses going to away games very shortly. Is there any positions you think that we should be targeting right now?
Just echoing pretty much everybody else. I think the left back, left centre back is priority, mainly for first choice left back, because Jeffy is not that, and he won't be that. And Aaron's has to be playing right back, so Ridvan's got 1 foot in Besiktas as it stands probably. So, and Robbie Fraser is deemed not good enough, because if he was good enough, he would have been playing ahead of Aarons in the games that we've had that he's played at left back. So that's always a major priority. And in terms of the way that Russell Martin wants to play, a left-footed centre half seems very important in the fluidity and the balance of the side. So they're probably quite as important as each other, I would think. It's because if you do think about it, we have, albeit John Souttar's filling in there, but he's actually been quite good the last sort of season and a half ish in terms of injuries. But if he gets an injuries, all of a sudden we're kind of, we're starting to get itchy bums to think we need somebody to come in. And so I think we'll see somebody come in, and John Souttar is somebody, I guess, that's got to be given that new contract as it's up next season. So and he's going to be a good squad option, I think. Left centre back, left back, and for me, I keep saying, I know Jack Butland's he's had a few good saves in the games that we've had, and he's done well, but for being the sweeper keeper that Russell Martin wants to play with, he just doesn't have that attributes for that. So I still think a goalkeeper is an important position, and there's been links. I don't think it's a coincidence that we've been linked with either looking at or making offers and whatnot. So and then I guess the centre forward spot is obviously up for discussion as well. So to be quite honest with you, I think they're all quite as important as each other as far as I'm concerned.
Ross, just as Deano was talking about Souttar, are you in favour of giving Souttar a new contract?
As long as it's on, favourable terms for Rangers and for, John Souttar. He is now kind of in his prime, if you want to say that, to use a cliche for a centre half. I believe he is 29 years old. But I think he's obviously very liked within the club, but it's about coming to an agreement that's, like I say, for what's best for Rangers as well. If we think we can go out and we can get a better centre half on less money, or they can be a bigger asset for us in terms of sell on, because we're not going to get any money now really for John Souttar unless he leaves soon, which doesn't really seem to be apparent. We need to think about what's best for the club. It's not really about what's best for the player, which I know seems a bit silly, but I think for too long we've been quite good to just handing out contracts to people who haven't really earned them. But I do think John Souttar has earned the right to be here. He's clearly very liked by Russell Martin. He was given the captaincy on Tuesday night, so I think there's still something there. What seems to be the thing is I feel that, I think he mentioned it in his post-match, he was on one of the press conferences, that there hasn't really been any discussions. I don't know if that's been something that the club have just decided to put a hold on contract talks until the end of the transfer window, because obviously Kevin Thelwell has been really prioritising bringing players in and trying to shift a lot of the big wages. So probably at this moment in time, where John Souttar will be playing next year isn't really I don't think it's the highest of priorities in a summer that's going to be full of, it's got a massive turnover. But I would like to see him, if it was my decision, I would like to see him stay, because I think you can't have enough of a good, strong Scottish contingent, which is something that we all want as Rangers fans. You still want that good young, that kind of good Scottish core.
I agree with what you're saying. And Deano, I'll bring you in a wee second. Here's my take on it. I wouldn't offer him a new contract, because I think this playing for Scotland thing is going to keep coming back to bite him in the backside. And I think he's going to be coming into his 30s very shortly, and offering him a big contract with big money. And if he's going to be playing for Scotland every couple of months, and he come back with an injury, I don't think we'd get the value for money out of him, offer him a new contract. And that would mean then we'd obviously had to get rid of him now to make any sort of profit on it. That's just my 2 cents. Deano, your thoughts?
Just on that, so we get 17 positions in the European squad for players that are of homegrown, club trained and homegrown nation trained. So as we alluded to, we've got quite a bloated squad. John Suter, albeit he's not a first team player, does tick a very important box that we have. And if we're going to be getting rid of John Suter, we need to fill that spot. And probably as it presently stands, there's not much nation-trained players. There isn't many nation-trained players that could probably come in and be impact squad players that John Suter is. And I guess there's a way of looking at it with the fact that his contract is next summer. We should be, I guess, if we leave it till after the window, then you can talk to teams in January and leave for free. So I guess it's a way of looking at it, saying, well, you're 29, we can give you a contract, but it's going to be based on the average performances that you'll make in the next 3 years. To look at what the value that he can actually give back to the club, it must represent the contract that we give him. And albeit John Suter isn't an asset, he's still quite an important player within the club. And like you said, he got the captaincy the other night, so he's obviously held in a relative high regard for Russell Martin. So in terms of obviously what he must bring to the squad on and off the pitch, and having people like that in and around the dressing room with this big massive transition period that we're going through, I think is something that the club should be looking to definitely keep him on board.
Kevin, then just your thoughts on Suter and the situation that we're in.
I'm comfortable with Suter staying, to be fair. I also would be comfortable with him getting a new contract, in all fairness. I think having a Scottish core is ideal.
Yeah.
He is going to have his injury concerns here or there. I don't think they've been particularly too bad over the last couple of seasons. I know he had one fairly lengthy spell out after going out to Scotland. I know there was some of the stuff at the start of the season, but he was still available for the first qualifier. I don't imagine I don't know his wages, but I don't imagine he'll be on high wages. But I think he come in and he can do a job. I definitely think he's better at right centre back than he is at left centre back. I think that is evident. But I think either way, we've only got 3 senior centre backs at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think I wouldn't want to lose Suter. I think with the amount of transition that we're going through as a squad, I think we do need some people there that have been there before. And I wouldn't say that John Suter was the biggest concern for me over the last couple of seasons, if I'm honest. I do think I would still rather go out and get a good, strong left centre back.
Yeah.
Because and maybe John Suter drops to being there as an option of cover. But I don't think it's a priority to move Suter on personally.
We'll go with the comments then. Park Suter for now. Doug's asking, do we over-dramatise Jeffy's deficiencies? Surely he's a young player we can continue to develop. Fair enough, bring in our option. I'd like to see Jeffy built up. Ross, obviously we're going to need to replace Redvan because the youth that we have there has just not been given the chance. The young guy was loaned out to Livingston. The name's away from me at the moment. Redvan has been linked constantly since he's come in the door, really, hasn't he? He's always been pushed away. Do you think then we are overcritical of Jeffy because he's so young and he's got a lot to learn yet?
I mean, it's not like Doug to defend a full-back that can't, mark the back post and track his man. So, Sorry, Dougie. I think to an extent we perhaps overplay it, but you need to be realistic, and I'm not trying to discredit him by saying this, but we've signed a Brazilian left back who'd been playing in Cyprus, who was 22, and we signed him for 600 grand. He's not going to be perfect. He does have a lot of very good assets, and I think he's obviously a player that seems to blow a bit hot and cold, but he has the opportunity to learn. He seems to have a lot of, like I say, positive attributes in which you can harness. And it's about coaching the other parts into his game. And if he's willing to take on parts of what Russell Martin's game plan is, which he seems to be, I know he did say that he had a lot to learn and he perhaps wasn't the first choice left back. He would have rather played Max Aarons out of position. But I think especially last week in Athens, we've seen the benefits of having a left-footed left back come on and brought balance to the team. Yeah. At a time when we were really, really under the cosh in the second half in Athens. And I thought on Tuesday night, Jeffy had a really decent game. You could see what he was trying to do. Perhaps as a from what we were told, he played in Cyprus. He essentially did play as a left winger, so it's difficult for him to have to play, inverted and pull the ball more onto his right foot. It's got to be difficult for him to do. It's perhaps a little bit easier for someone like Tavernier, because Tavernier has spent the last 4 or 5 seasons moving into the middle during play. You've seen him kind of in the right hand channel.
Yeah.
So it's probably been easier for Tavernier to adapt to the game than Jeffrey. But there's plenty of time, and there'll be plenty of opportunities to do it, because he has, like I say, he's got all the ability to be able to do it. It's just about if he takes on what Russell Martin wants to do and can obviously provide the positivity whilst working on the defensive deficiencies that are there. You can't get away from that. He can get beat quite a lot. He doesn't track his man. He can get a bit kind of unaware of where he is. But every young defender gets like that. We can't all have defenders that play like Maldini. We're just not going to get that. So you need to be realistic. And I think he perhaps has been a little bit, chastised a little bit too much. So, I think there's an opportunity, and I think there's a spot in the team for him.
Kevin, would you keep Yefty in the team, or would you bring somebody else in and then deputise Yefty to the new person, depending on quality?
For me, I probably want to sign a left back on the basis of that Jeffty's guaranteed to drop out. I think Jeffty is a good, young, promising player. I think he definitely played a lot more minutes than what Rangers originally planned last year. I think we went into last season with Red Van being the number 1 left back, but just unfortunately, the thing with Red Van is that he's just picked up too many injuries, so we had to rely on Jeffty a lot. I think he's definitely got loads to learn, especially from a defensive aspect. And I know Martin was talking a lot about how he's having to learn and adapt to the role. I'm only imagining that inverted fullback position. But I think with stronger centre backs and a lot more organisation in the back, it can maybe benefit him. I like him. I definitely would like to keep Jeffty and let him battle out for a space in the left back position, because by all accounts it looks like Red Van's going to be going. And although Robbie Fraser showed flashes of what he could do at Livingston, I just don't know if he's ready for Rangers yet. So I think to definitely go and get another left back to go and compete for that left back spot.
I'll go back to the comments again. I started a few here away at the start, and one I thought was quite good. Dino Del Smith's asking here, do you think we're still interested in Dor Turkman? He's definitely one player we've really wanted this window. He seems to link to everyone in bar the Ibiza final boss. Very on trend. Did you see much of the guy? Did you whenever it was first sort of rumoured they were in for him way back when? You're muted, mate.
Yellow card, sorry. That's one of the things that I was unaware of, was him. Hadn't heard of him ever. Looked at YouTube, seen his stats, seen the interview that we did with the guy. So he very, very much would, I think, come in and be a success based on what we've all seen and what we've all heard. And for the money that we were touted about, apparently going to be spending, I think it was around about the 5 million mark, if my memory serves me right.
So.
And the podcaster guy basically saying that he's got a relatively high ceiling. So, and I think maybe the reason that we've not been that's been quiet on him is because the move for Dessers didn't materialise. That was just kind of my own impression of it. I could be wrong, but I just got the impression that with only playing one striker, I don't think he was wanting to have 4, to be quite honest with you. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. I think if one striker was to move on, Dessers or Igaman, because I don't think Danilo's really in the frame for moving on currently. I think you would see the links coming back out for is it Turgaman you pronounce it?
Something like that. Probably butchered what we was trying to
do apologise if I've offended anybody, but if he's still available, obviously if one of them move on, and I kind of fully anticipate the club to go back in for him.
No, I think you're right. I think Danilo's in that position where I don't think he's done enough to warrant somebody wanting to come in for him at the moment. He had sort of sent okay pre-season, but we didn't really get enough a lot of games, pre-season games. We really should have been playing more, but the circumstances we had at the time. And Dessers, whoever came in for Dessers didn't meet the valuation. Simple as that. Russell Martin was quite clear on that. I think I agree with you. I think if he did win or did go, then we probably would have jumped and probably would have went for it. So it's interesting to see. This could be one of these ones that goes right up to the wire in terms of the window, depending on how things go, especially with Iggy Man, because he's sort of the missing man at the moment, really, isn't he? We haven't really seen him.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, are you expecting Egan to be here for the start of for obviously after the transfer window, or do you think he's the only one that's going to go?
Nah, he'll be gone. I don't believe for a second that he's injured. I think this is all heavily linked around the fact that he will be away. Whether Turgeman is the one that comes in and replaces him, I think that would be more like for like. I thought if Dessers was potentially to go, then we'd maybe opt for a more experienced striker to come in. But I think with Iggerman going, I think Turgeman's probably the perfect profile that we would look to go and get, someone that is young, similar ages, if not the same age as Iggerman. And probably at this point, I'd be pretty comfortable with Iggerman going and Dessers staying. And I don't think I would have actually said that last season, but I know this is going off topic slightly, but I thought Dessers was excellent the other night. And it just shows you what he can actually do when he's got two options at each side of him. But I thought his hold up play and everything was spot on. So yes, I do think Iggerman will be gone. I don't think he'll be here for the season.
Somebody's saying he's staying. I disagree with you. Folks, get more questions in here. I still have a few saved here that I'm keeping. So we'll jump then, obviously, from transfers and stuff. We'll go and look towards the Champions League and potentially Europa League. Ross, Colin asks, if cash money incentive aside, do you think the lads would be ready to compete at a Champions League phase level, or would another season in Europa League be more realistic for this team?
I think we all want the Champions League, but we need to perhaps be realistic that it's a step. It might be a step too far. Although I would say that I think I'm probably one of the few people, I don't know if you would agree, I actually quite like the revamped Champions League to an extent. I understand that it has become essentially an iteration of the Super League in all but name. Do you know what I mean? When you've got 6 clubs from England qualifying for it, automatically is a disgrace. Frankly, it's a disgrace. But what it does essentially give you is it gives you basically a 2 and 3 shot of qualifying to some degree. Obviously, the top 8 go through automatically to the last 16, but then you do have a playoff round, and you play against teams that you do have the opportunity, to beat. If you look at, and obviously I don't want to, obviously it's the only comparison that we have is obviously Celtic last year. Celtic didn't have a particularly strong campaign, but what they did do is they got a couple of results against teams that were below them because of the way that the seeding works, and it basically allowed them to push into the top 24 to give you that guaranteed playoff spot. So I think we'd be more in with a shout with it now than we would have been perhaps 2 or 3 years ago, like we experienced when we did qualify. And albeit we were badly equipped for an incredibly difficult group. I don't think you can actually underestimate how difficult the group we were given with Liverpool, Napoli, and Ajax. It really was a group of death. And it's become, I know it wasn't good enough, and we've spoken about that to death in the past. But I think the Champions League now actually gives us a better shot of, getting something out of it, because of obviously the way the seeding goes, that you play more games against teams that are potentially in lower pots, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because obviously you do play kind of 2 pot 4, 2 pot 3, and so on and so on. If we went into the Europa League, it's not a disaster. I think we're not. You don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but we're in a very, very good position of at least making the playoffs for the Champions League. So you've got the financial gain of that. I think it's an extra €5 million for just being in it, so that we do have that. And we've proven that the Europa League, like I said, for the Champions League, us being a good Europa League team when it was the group stage, we're now in a much better position with it being this league phase that gives you a better opportunity to qualify for a team like us. So in terms of where we would be, I don't actually think it makes much of a difference in terms of we as a team. We want to play in Europe, and I think we're obviously guaranteed, group stage football. But I would like the Champions League just because it's been too long that we've not been in it, and I think we would really be able to kickstart, what we're trying to do with that extra cash injection, I think it would be worth it. And then, don't get me wrong, you'll be playing better teams and we might take a drubbing or two. And you obviously got to balance it out because it happened before and we weren't prepared for it. It really killed the confidence. But I don't think we'd be as ill prepared for it this time.
No, I think you're right. I think it'd been so long since we were in the Champions League when we went back to it, and there's so much has changed in terms of the money that's involved in it. Has went through the roof since we were last in it. The quality of the teams, like the Premier League's a superpower now, and like even Ajax at that point when we faced Ajax, they were had dozens of these 20, 30, 40 plus £1 million players in that squad. And then it's Napoli, I don't think we should have beat PSV to get through the way we did. You know what I mean? I think that was a big shock. And but that's the table that we want to dine at because that's where the big money is. And it dwarfs because if you've seen the finance breakdown last year where it showed you where I think it was the team that finished bottom of the Champions League got more money for the team that ended up United. I think they were in the top three of the top three finishers Europa League. There was only a couple of 100,000 in it between the money there, so that's where you want to be. Kevin, what's your thoughts then? Would you sacrifice the Champions League for another year? Happy enough with the bread and butter Europa League? We're comfortable.
Nah, I would say it has to be the Champions League. For me, I think the board as well. That's why they've bought into is that they want Champions League football. I think what you'll probably find is we might end up getting a late on marquee signing if we were to go and get Champions League football as well, like a real good statement signing. And I think Ross touched on it. I think that the closest comparison in this sense would be Celtic last year. I thought Celtic's group stage games or league phase games were easier than whatever's were in the Europa League. So I think it could just be the luck of the draw, really. We could go into the Champions League and we could get a really favourable draw, similar to what Celtic got last season, or we could go in and it could be absolutely howling and get absolute solid teams. But I think the thing with the Champions League is that you're guaranteed that money as soon as you enter, whether we lose every single game or win every game, then you're guaranteed that money. And I think that's what the board will be looking for, because that's how we then kick on as a club year after year, is by getting that money. And this is probably going to be, is this the last season where it's going to be, I say easy, but easy-ish to get into the Champions League, because I think it's only the league winners that will get in from next season, and even at that, they have to go in at qualifying round 2, similar to what we've done this year. So I think this is probably our biggest opportunity to try and get into it, and it's probably the easiest path we could have got this year. I know we've came through Panathinaikos, which was a tough draw. I thought Plzen was a favourable draw, because I think this is maybe one of the worst teams we've potentially played in a qualifier for the Champions League. And then obviously it's potentially going to be Bruges. I know they won 1-0 the other night as well. So I think that it's achievable, I think, as it stands to go and qualify. And I definitely would rather it. I'd be probably pretty gutted now to get Europa League, although at least we know we've got that guaranteed.
I'm getting slated in the chat here with the Champions League debacle. What I was meaning was, obviously when we were there a couple of years ago, we got absolutely humped. I'm talking about the gap between that point and we were previously. Obviously, we were down divisions. That's how long I was meaning. Dino, then, just your thoughts then, and after this we'll shift on from the Champions League stuff. Just, I'm assuming you're like the other guys, you just want to be dining at the top table where all the money is.
Well, aye, this is it. They've no, look, at the end of the day, Europa League arguably is our level, and that's apparent in our performances and how far we've gotten in the Europa League. Within the last 7 years, we've actually done really well. Cast your memory back to this time 7 years ago, we were unlucky not to go out of the group stage in Gerrard's first season. So Europa League really is our level. When we got to the Champions League last time, Gio didn't get back. Said the squad was good enough, then said it wasn't good enough. And we played against 3 really, really good sides that season. Napoli probably were one of the best teams in Europe. And as far as I'm concerned, you're Liverpool And then you had an Ajax side who had that Kudus, how you pronounce him, and he just ripped us apart. And we were just looked like we were boys against men. Now going into it with having the club getting back to being run properly, we can actually see that if we did make it, you've got to have faith and stuff, I guess, as well. But you've got to be really optimistic that, and Kev just said a marquee signing there. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually made 2 marquee signings that are just like game changers for us because we get into the Champions League. And I totally think that as Kev said there, this is probably the easiest path we could have dreamed of and opportunity to get in there. And because of what Ross had said as well about the way that the league structure is now and things like that, is we could get the Champions League and do okay. And if we'd actually do as well as what Celtic did last year, I don't think any fan would be, I think we'd all be pretty happy with that, given the level of transition that's happening at the club. So yeah, in terms of playing with the big boys, definitely. But if we don't make it past Bruges, we've got to be, well, at least we know that we're going to be playing at a level, and then we've got to have, I guess, real targets of making at least the quarter final again.
Well, this is it. I mean, this is why these guys, took over the club, because they want to be successful and they want to be in the Champions League, because that's where the money is and that's where they're going to make a return on their investment. So, yes, it's a new format of Champions League. We won't know if it's going to be for us until we get to it. So obviously, that's the whole point of this is to get through these qualifiers, and this might be the last time it's the easiest route we get, unless we'll start winning the league, which is obviously on Russell Martin's and the squad's shoulders. Kevin, Doug has a question for you here, asking if we were to get to the Champions League and make a marquee sign, in what position would you look to make it?
For me, centre mid, I think. See that right centre mid position, which I know is probably different from what most people think. They're maybe thinking winger or striker. But I think for me, right centre mid, I know there's some Diamonde lovers out there. I just think he slows the game down too much. And I actually thought if there was an option to move Diamonde on ahead of Raskin, I would definitely opt for that. But I think a right good top quality centre mid is probably what we can be lacking at times. I think especially if Russell Martin's want to play this quick, flowing, forward-thinking football, I do think sometimes our centre mids can slow the game down. I do like Rothwell. I think he plays in the half-turn really well and he gets the ball moving. But I thought when I looked at it the other night, we were the dominant team. I thought Diamonde just gets dispossessed in the ball so often, turns his back on play, constantly looking to twist and turn all the way throughout the game, and I just think it slows us down. Whereas I think I would be looking to see if we can get a right good centre mid in as a marquee signing, because I'm pretty comfortable with the wide options that we've brought in. I think we're probably pretty top heavy there now, I would say, depending on where Mikey Moore fits into it. And striker wise, I think I'd be happy with Turgerman. I don't think that would qualify as a marquee signing. I think the fee's probably going to be anywhere between sort of 4 and 6 million from what I've seen online. Like, I'm talking about a proper, I was going to say an Engels signing, but not particularly him or his quality, but the price tag of going and getting yourself a right good centre mid that's maybe goes and breaks our transfer record.
Ross, I think that's what a lot of people were expecting when this takeover was announced. It was, here comes the big money signings again. We're going back to the Torrandi Flow days and things like that, which when you actually think about it, probably gives you nightmares. So say we hit the Champions League, what would be a ballpark figure for a marquee signing for Rangers Football Club now, today?
I think, based on obviously the way we've been over the last 6 or 7 years, the way we've been run, Ryan Kent's fee was a marquee fee for us, because we weren't spending, we hadn't spent that kind of level of money for, nearly 20 years. I think it was the highest fee we'd paid since Mikel Arteta in 2002. But, and within that time, people forget, I think we spent 6 million on Danilo. That could have been a marquee fee, but, it's not worked out. I would be astounded. I mean, I would be the hubris of it would be outstanding, and if we went and broke a transfer record, the red tops and the journals would just completely and utterly lose their proverbial. If we pull a midfielder from Germany or from France for 15 million, you can imagine. I can already feel the seed of even just suggesting it from people. Do you know what I mean? It would be I would be flabbergasted. I mean, it would be a real statement of intent if we made the Champions League and they went, there's a 12 to 15 million pound midfielder. That would be amazing. Really would be amazing. I really think it's a bit pie in the sky, and
Yeah,
I think we're probably at a point now where we need to really focus on, shifting wages and shifting players out, because we've got, like you said, we've got a squad of. I think we've got a bigger squad than Chelsea now, to be honest with you, and that's saying something. Because I think you did mention, I think it was the Middlesbrough programme. There was about 40 players on it, and that was before we even added, Mikey Moore and Ollie Antman onto it. So we really need to start shifting bodies. Me personally, I still think we need a left-sided centre half. I think we're still really weak in that area. I know we've been linked with a few over the last kind of couple of days or so. A boy for Real Betis, I think he was mentioned. We don't know how, but I think again, it was something Dino and Kev brought it up. I think a lot of the bigger moves are being held up by our inability to shift players. I still think that's been an issue. But me personally, I'd like another centre half.
Dino, I'll give you your place as well. And same question then. We hit the Champions League. Who's your marquee signing? What position? How much are you spending?
Well, it's funny. I put in the group chat within the last few days, we make the Champions League. I want a marquee left centre back signing. I think I put in, but on the left centre back that we're linked with, Chris Jack has confirmed that it's definitely there is something in it. So we're exploring the option of, I think he's about 20-year-old, the guy.
I've actually got a slide on him, Dino, here. I'll fire this up on the screen now here. So there he is. This is the stats for him. This is what has been provided for us. I think it was Gordon, the journal, that did this for us. So if you can read that, value roughly €4 million. Plays for Betis. His contract's up in 2027. Positives there is pace, physicality, athleticism. Is he sort of in the Giga mold then? Do you think this would be, the boy we're bringing in to partner Giga, and then obviously we keep and then we sell on for the big money instead of the other way about, where we're loaning Giga, and the chances of us signing him are probably slim to none because of the start he's already made?
I would say that that's definitely something that I think, looking at that, you would be pretty accurate with what you just said there, Jock.
Aye.
Definitely. I think Giga's going to be probably the player that we fall in love with maybe the most this season. He's on loan like the same with Cherny and Tima, isn't it? But this boy seems to be pretty good, and good stats and stuff for a 20-year-old. Value $4 million. You could be talking 3-4 times that come a couple of seasons with us. So, but in terms of a marquee signing myself, it would be a centre forward for me.
Okay.
Aye. It would be, and I was watching the game with Scotty in the Green Rangers Supporters Club on Tuesday night, and he made a very good point. He just wants us to sign somebody, so Torre Andre Flo's signing isn't our record signing, just to get him erased from memory, pretty much. So I can get on that bandwagon very easily, and I do concur that I think if we're going to be signing somebody, I would be signing somebody between 12 and 15 million. Like Ross said, 15 million. I think that would be a bit of a push, but definitely over the 12 million mark, so we can turn around and say that Torre Andre Flo is no longer our record signing by a centre forward, an established centre forward that's going to come in, who still has a bit of resale value on him, that we can get a couple of seasons out of at least, and break some records.
Yeah, an old school centre forward now is hard to find because they're not really being produced anymore. It's somebody that can play across the front three. But it's good that Chris Jack's confirmed that's obviously somebody we're interested in. I seen it on Twitter earlier. There was like a highlight reel of this guy's tackles. He likes to lift people off the ground. Shall we say? So he's definitely got that physicality about him. Somebody in the chat's here saying Jamie Vardy. I think his missus has actually just leaked his next destination by accident. I think she posted something on Instagram that's thingy that. I think it's Inter Miami. I think he's going to, or he's somewhere MLS. I think. Luke De Jong. I think that one was obviously discussed. I think earlier on in the season in the transfer window, but then he got that surprise move to Porto where basically he just walked out at half time and said hello to everybody. Nobody had a clue it was happening. It was quite well done. Me personally, I think I'm like you, Deano. I think I'd love a stupid centre forward that's got a terrific goal record that's maybe that 23, 24 prolific. Get a couple of years out of him and then sell him for silly money. And upset the right people and score goals in the right games, that kind of centre forward. But again, we'll have to get to the Champions League first and get that cash pot, don't we? I'm just going to look at the chat here, guys. Get more comments in here, more questions for the guys. I'll jump back to what I had prepared earlier. Let me see. We've obviously talked about the strikers up front. The manager, then we'll talk about. Obviously, the manager said on Tuesday evening that it would be this different team that would obviously start on Saturday, which kind of makes sense. Obviously, it's a short turnaround of games and stuff like that, and we probably want to rotate the squad. Deano, I'll stick with you then. Who would you keep in the squad or in the starting 11 that started on Tuesday?
To be honest with you, I would actually prefer to have us go in with our strongest team possible so we can get 3 points on the board.
Yeah.
Like, to be quite honest with you, you're going to be rotating the squad. League form's not great. Players don't turn up in the league. I don't think Russell Martin could afford to drop. Well, he could, but, dropping more points second game. No, I want us to go out and, get a 3-0, something like that, 3 points. Then into the game against them, second leg, you could maybe rotate 2 or 3 bodies and still have a team good enough to go out and get through to the next leg. That's kind of where I'm at. But I wouldn't be rotating anything, but who am I?
Kevin, just who would you keep, or would you change it at all, or would you?
I mean, in an ideal world, I would like to just keep it as is, but the fact that he said there's going to be changes, that there will be, probably one thing we can agree is that he's true to his words, Martin, as seen in his team selection during the week. I think you might see the likes of Rothwell maybe drop out to be rested, and Raskin comes in and plays in the 6. I think it's clear to see Raskin is a better 6 than he is an 8, although I do think Rothwell maybe just... I think he maybe suits Martin's style a bit better than what Raskin does, which is unfortunate. But I think Raskin might come in. I think you might see, I know people won't want to hear it, but I think you might see Tav come in at right back. I know Aaron's went off with what looked to be a pretty solid dead leg. So I think that's like an easy excuse to have Tav right back. And again, not that I agree with that. I know Doug was mentioning Fernandez. I don't think we'll probably see him this weekend. I think that he might drop in for the Alaba game, because I think the 2 centre backs seem to be fitting in well at the moment. I can try to think if I would make any other changes. I hope Lyle Cameron remains to start. He was he was potential close to man of the match if it wasn't for Gassama being so good as well as Antman. I think it'd be hard to even see Danilo coming in ahead of Dessers, because how well Dessers done. So I think probably for me, I think you might see Tav coming in at right back, and you might see Raskin coming in for Rothwell to give him a bit of a rest for during the week again. That's about it for me.
Ross, yourself, any changes? Anybody? Do you want to see the same team? Obviously, maybe the enforced change probably Tav, but anybody else you want to keep in the starting lineup going forward?
I'd be wanting to keep it as close to the starting lineup as possible. I think what we've got there is a team that clearly play the Russell Martin way better than what we've had so far. So I think it would be unwise to try and break it up as much as possible.
Yeah.
And like Dino said, it probably in the next week, as silly as this sounds, getting 3 points against Dundee is so important for us. We need to get going in the league. We do have a little bit of leeway against Victoria Pilsen, so we might make more changes for that game. And then obviously when we play Alloa next Saturday, there's a chance to bring in, Curtis might start, Fernandez might start. We might even see, Asgard, if he's fit, he might get an opportunity to come in and play just to get some minutes in the legs, depending on obviously the injury. We've been told it was kind of 4 or 5 weeks. In Rangers world, 5 weeks equals 7 months, and then 7 months, 4 games, and then release at the end of his contract. But like I say, I really would like to just, without sounding too disrespectful, I want to just go blow Dundee away, get 3 points on the board, and then maybe we can make changes after the hour mark if we've got a more comfortable lead. So I'd like to try and keep it as close as possible. But you did say if Max Aarons is perhaps out, then probably Tavernier come back in. But you want to keep the stability of the team, I think, anyway, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, it all worked. Everything worked. Everybody was in sync. It was good to see. Dino, Mitch is asking here if we go 2 up inside there, fingers crossed, maybe more. Do you bring in youth and who on Saturday? Dino?
Oh, did you say me? Sorry, I didn't hear you say my name. Sorry, my bad, lads. I'm sitting there watching. I didn't hear my name. That's my red card. Basically, I would definitely bring on the youth for sure, and it would probably be Curtis and Bailey Rice I'd bring on, and maybe depending on how well the strikers playing, maybe give Josh Gentles a wee taste, maybe, because he's somebody I know it's probably the Alloa game that we might see him, but
yeah,
I want to see him, as he's meant to be quite a good young centre forward. So I would like him to get maybe even a wee 10-minute cameo or something at the end. But in terms of the round about 60-minute mark, I bring the main boys off, get Curtis on and get Rice on to see what they can do. But we know what Curtis can do, but see what Rice can do in a Russell Martin system, because have we seen Rice yet this season?
Only in the friendlies.
I don't think it's game one. Aye, that's right. Centre back, eh? But so I'd like to see him playing centre mid for Russell Martin. So that's what I would do. But only if we're 2-0. I'd maybe say 3-0. If we're still sitting 2-0 at 60 minutes, I guess a bit more of a gamble. But it's at Ibrox, isn't it? So.
Well, I agree with you. For a hill, I'd be wanting more than 2 up before I start bringing on. If we're looking at the younger team, and then Thomas says looks like Rice is going on loan. Probably at this stage, I think it's probably the best thing for him. So he obviously featured in the pre-season games, but I think was really trialled at centre back, wasn't he? So different experience for him. I'll go with Mitch again here. Following that question, is a big higher confidence after Tuesdays where it clicked, and it equally important to start breaking the youngsters into the team and fill them with confidence. Yeah, I guess that. And so obviously these guys that were brought in, Kevin, are quite young. Gassama and Ant-Man and the young boy for Spurs, and the Moore. As a young team, we're building now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Playing the ones that we've obviously signed. I don't know if I am in the mindset where I would give the youth a chance right now. I think we just need to get into a place where we're blowing teams away and building a real good momentum or just going into games and making teams fear us. Especially 3rd season in a row, we've had a slow start in the league campaign. I think we just need to get into a space where we're battering teams every single game and we're over the top. And I think our squad's big enough that at some point throughout the season we can start to breed some young players in. I think Curtis, who I know has been mentioned in the comments, I think he's going out and there's a possibility for him to go out on loan as well that I seen just before I came on the podcast which I think could probably be good for him. I think there's a couple of Premiership clubs that are Scottish Premiership clubs that are interested in taking Curtis on loan, which I think could be good for him. So I think his options potentially could be limited, especially with Ant-Man and Gassama, that they're going to be the starters, right? And there maybe is potential for another one coming in with the fact that we're maybe exploring a loan opportunity for Curtis. But yeah, I don't think at this early on in the season it's too important to bred the youngsters in. Apologies, Mitch. I know you're all for the youngsters breaking into the team. I think there's plenty of time in a season for that to happen. I think right now we just need to make sure we get our heads down and turn teams over every single week. So yeah.
Ross, do you think we'll see Cortez on Saturday?
I don't think so. I really don't. I don't think
it's...
Alloa? Maybe. Perhaps. But he's just another one that's just, I think, he's not really been seen, I think, in the kind of the competitive games. I don't think, am I right in saying? I don't think to come off against Panathinaikos, I don't think. He's, he was playing at wing, but he was essentially playing as a wing back against Middlesbrough in a friendly, and that just screams sticking a guy in just to get a turn at him. It's been an absolute disaster of a signing, to be honest with you. And like Kev said, I don't think it's a coincidence that we've been linked with wingers at the backside. We've brought in Gassama, we've brought in Ant-Man. Ant-Man's probably more akin to what I think Cortez should have been. I thought he would have been more fast, direct, with the ability to whip balls in, whereas I think Gassama's perhaps got a little bit more ability, maybe he's got a bit more of a trick or two.
Yeah.
And Moore is obviously, I don't know a lot about Mikey Moore apart from he's got a really good reputation and he's clearly very talented to come through the Spurs Academy, so but I think Cortez is well in the pecking order, and the fact that he's here is basically because of really, really bad contracts that have been written by other people, but we're all getting into that. I think that's another point that we've maybe for another day to talk about legacy deals.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. As I say, it's one of those ones that was done and it was a poor one at the time, but we're tied up with a commitment that we had to fulfil, or we would have probably been taken to court. So, it's one of those ones we just need to take it on the chin, and it's just not worked out. It'll be interesting to see what happens to him if he gets a loan this season, or if he does start getting played minutes. But he needs to be getting minutes at the right position, like you say, is filling a gap out of position and try to play wing back and stuff. It's just not his position at all. I mean, you want to see him going forward. Do you think we'll see Curtis at the weekend? Do you want to see more Curtis?
Aye, I'd definitely be having him involved. I think given the lack of opportunities for him to, no reserve league, no B team, things like that. And he's, in the first team squad. I think you've got to, as I said, give him opportunities because he's only going to get better, and we need to develop these players and not have a Kai Kennedy situation where he was touted to be. I'm just trying to think of a similar player in similar position. Kai Kennedy had a relatively high ceiling, but didn't materialise from him for whatever reason. But the point I'm making is, I don't want Curtis to go down the same path. I do want him to at least, within the next 4 years, be an established first team squad player stroke regular. And I mean, he's talented and he's young, so I want to see him given opportunity when the right time comes to rest Gassama and Ant-Man, because they're obviously going to be the starters. Mikey Moore's there. These players can't play every single game, 90 minutes. So Curtis is a good enough squad player option at this minute in time.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and he showed I think under Russell Martin, I think obviously the signings that Kevin Thelwell and Dan Purdy are bringing in are young signings, but they've got that raw potential, but they've also had some exposure to first team football, whereas obviously Curtis has come up through the youth ranks and has been promoted up from the B team or the under 19s, and was scoring goals for fun. Martin doesn't seem like the sort of person that is going to hold back player growth, player potential. He's he's kind of happy to chuck them in at the deep end and see how they swim, because he's done that at every club he's been at, and he's brought some great players through. Every club he's been at, there's always been one or two wee gems that's come through the youth system that have been there for him. I had a question there, Star. I need to try and find it. It was from MMMCK, and we'll just go around. Just this is the last question, just to finish us off, folks. As it stands, what's the minimum expectations given this season in the current squad? What would you be classed as a realistic season? I'm only one game in.
Same as every year, isn't it? Treble.
Kevin, you can start, mate.
I think it's same as every season, treble. That's always what you go into every season with the aspirations of winning. Obviously, if that turns out or not, that's a different story. But I think probably minimum we want to win the league, and if we can make that a double or a treble, then amazing. We'd always say a good run in Europe. I think if we can qualify for Champions League, I think the league campaign's the most important thing. We need to get back to winning titles again. It's just been so long since we've been in a place where it's been that consistent. I've got my wee boy going to his first game at the weekend, and I want to see him grow up watching Rangers winning league titles. So hopefully this is the first season on the route to that being the case.
Ross?
It's got to be the title. It's the aim every year. I think that the day that we start changing any expectations to anything other than the title is the day that we've lost our football club. And I know it sounds a bit dramatic, but Rangers should be winning the title every year, and that's just the be all and end all. The cups, you want to win the double, like Kev said. The trebles you'd want to win the treble. It's amazing. It's been far too long since we've even had the opportunity to win a double. Never mind the treble. Excuse me. But yeah, it's the title. Simple as. If we win the title this year, it would be absolutely phenomenal. One of the best.
Deano?
I think minimum league and a cup double for sure. Do think though, if we win both the cups, do decent in Europe, goes to the last game of the season and we just miss out on the title, I think that's a massive improvement from the season before, so it can only be seen as a successful. We don't want to be losing a title, another one, and them getting further ahead of us. But I'm just trying to be realistic in the sort of where we are and where we're going to be. But if we can win the title, like Ross said, it will be one of the best ever. Like them dominating Scottish football for so long, and Russell Martin and his first year in charge, I think with the circumstances, I think it would be a very, very well appreciated and respected league title if we get the end of the season. And we've got to win a cup as well. We can't just be winning leagues. We've got to be putting our name on the Scottish Cup and the League Cup as well consistently every season. So definitely at least a double. Like Kev said, a treble would be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's as somebody said, their young fans deserve to see Rangers win trophies, and us older ones are spoiled because we're just used to Rangers winning a league every year or a treble every couple of years, and it's just something you kind of took for granted, really. And then obviously it took long enough, and everybody came back up the divisions, and then JR done the one that needed to be done the most. We managed to get that, and then we've always either been the masters of our own downfall since when it comes to being close, and granted we've had quite a lot of bad luck in some of the cup competitions as well, some of the cup finals. I do think we should have more trophies to show for our name since we've come back up, but we'll not go down that route because again that's another podcast on its own, isn't it? Or a whole series. Kevin, just before we go, Doug's asking if the wee one has a favourite player.
I seen that, no, unless it was like a Minecraft character or something like that, he'd maybe give that a bit more off the top of his head. He's only 5, so maybe he'll pick a favourite player after this weekend. I'll wait and see, but as it stands, no yet. His favourite number's 10. I can't even think off the top of my head. Is that Lyle Cameron this year? I can't even remember who
it's
Steele. Okay.
Can't be having that.
No. Can't be about that. No, after the start of this season, he said. But no, I'm sure. Hopefully, I can pick a favourite player after this weekend.
No, that's it. Hopefully, like you say. Just before we go, folks, we'll just round up and just say thanks to everybody for joining us. And I'll give a shout out to our pod sponsor, which is Off to the Match I Go. If you head to the website and take a look at all the Rangers stuff they have there, once you get the checkout, just put Journal 10 in and you'll get 10% off your order. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. And just remember, every night's the Rangers Journal night.